On today's episode, we have Cameron Haynes, who's not only known for being America's greatest extreme bow hunter, but he's also Under Armour's longest sponsored athlete. He's known for his dedicated training regimen that prepares him for his backcountry adventures. Now, when you talk about dedicated training, Cam runs a marathon per day oftentimes. He trains 7 nights per week in the weight room. And importantly, he hones his craft shooting his bow every single day. We talked about a lot of things in our conversation, including the physical demands of backcountry hunting, which were incredible to hear firsthand from Cam. And we also talked a lot about finding growth by getting outside of your comfort zone. Outdoorsmen and athletes have come to respect him for his knowledge, his stories, and his drive to be the very best he can while pushing others to do the same. Cam is the definition of keep going. In fact, he often says keep hammering. He's in his early 50s, does everything I just mentioned, and holds a full-time job. I really enjoyed this conversation. I know you will too. So sit back and listen closely. Cam's got some incredible stories and insights to share. Let's go. Well, Cam, great to have you here on the Keep Going podcast. We're thrilled to have you join us today. So thank you.
Thanks, John. It's a pleasure to be here.
Yeah, and I think, for a lot of people, myself included, I want to dig into a few things today. Super interested in your background, but you're not only a hunter, but you're an athlete, an endurance athlete. I'd love to dig into that today, but maybe before we get going, could you bring us back a little bit to earlier in your life and kind of how you got into the great outdoors and where did this passion come from?
Well, it started, I grew up about 20 miles from where I live now. And it's small, it's kind of a logging town, logging community. A lot of guys worked in the woods there. Very small school. I had 24, 28 kids in my graduating class. So it was small town life. And, there's great parts of small town living. And that's, you feel like you know everybody. Sports is kind of, for us, was everything. Being outdoors, but then also like a negative might be is sometimes you don't see how big the world can be. And really there's kind of a ceiling on your dreams basically. And so that small town life, we'd call people that live here where I live now, flatlanders, because we felt like we lived in the mountains with the flatlanders, or we'd go to, if you came into town, that's where I'm at now. That's town. So way different, but what happened there is that's where I learned about hunting. My stepdad, I didn't really get along good with him, but he exposed me to hunting as kind of an olive branch thing to build our relationship. And I still didn't want to hang out with him, but I really enjoyed hunting and testing myself in the mountains. And so that's kind of where it started as a 15-year-old. That's when I first started hunting. And then my buddy got me into bow hunting when I was 18. And then from there, it's been, then you kind of, once you take the blinders off, you can see how big the world is and opportunities out there. And I love testing myself, which is kind of married myself into the endurance world and the hunting world because there's all sorts of tests out there, as you know.
Yeah, for sure. Now, did you play sports growing up as well, or was kind of hunting your
No,
thing?
I did football, basketball, baseball through high school. And, football was what I loved to do, was a receiver. We were pretty good for being small. And then I tried to play college football, just wasn't good enough basically, and couldn't afford to pay. It's just like a whole whatever. It's just like a 1-year thing. Came back to community college. I wasn't really achieving anything. Just kind of no big dreams, just doing what people do. It's just like days go by but I had something in my head about, well, these mountains made me feel like I didn't have an advantage in regular life. I didn't have any more money than anybody. didn't have a good job. I didn't know anybody, but when in the mountains, all of a sudden I found out that I have an advantage here. It's like all these, whoever it is, I don't care if they're rich or more talented, they get in the mountains and now all of a sudden I call the shots. So that was like my equalizer. And that's what
Yeah.
gave me confidence being in the mountains.
And was it your athletic capabilities or your endurance that gave you the edge, or was it just general like mastery of the outdoors and understanding, your environment as an
Uh,
outdoorsman, or was it
yeah,
both?
probably a little bit of everything. It's you have to have to succeed in the mountains. As if you've been out there, it. I mean, it'll knock you down. It'll
Yeah.
Mother Nature always wins, basically. But I felt like I was pretty mentally tough. I was good in the woods. I knew animals. That's what I was there doing and hunting. And I just wouldn't quit because I didn't have, I was used to having to overcome odds my whole life. And this was just another one. So, everybody says like people get in the mountains and they see the pictures and maybe they, hear the stories and they're like, well, I want to experience that. I've always wanted to do that. Then they get there and one day in and they're just like, whoa, this
Yeah, this
is
is hard.
not what I had in mind. I'm ready to go. And so and they're tough too. I mean, I've taken some super tough athletic, just you'd think they're beasts. And it takes a special thing to get it done in the mountains. It's just unforgiving.
Yeah, when you change the elements, I think too, that's something, a lot of people can be tough in the gym, right?
Yes,
But then when you get them in
yes.
the elements, like it's a whole new dynamic. Or what about the dark? How have you found people respond to the dark?
Not good. I mean, hey, we're humans. And so we're not by ourselves a lot. That's all there is to it. You got now, especially you got your phone, there's people around, there's phone calls, TV stations, there's all radio, there's always something. But when you get there out in the mountains by yourself, it's like nothing. And it's almost, there's a saying that you'll find out who you really are. And some people find out they don't really like that person. They're like, I don't want to know who I am. I'm good with just kind of knowing the surface person of who I'm supposed to be. But you get out there. So then the night comes, nightfall, and man, it's like you're almost like a little kid again. You're like, what did I just hear? Is that a bear? Is that a mountain lion? What's going on? And you create all these scenarios in your head. You wake up or you don't even wake up because you might not even have slept, but you get up in the morning, you're already exhausted because you're like, I didn't even sleep last night. A lot of people go through that. And it's, I have a chapter in my book. I wrote a book called Backcountry Bowhunting that's sold really, really well now, but there's a whole chapter called Fear. And it's just about that. Men don't talk about, you're not supposed to be afraid of anything. But I was like, why didn't anybody tell me about this? Because I'm out there by myself and it's overwhelming the stress you're under. And so I wrote a whole chapter on it.
Yeah, it's interesting. As you were saying that, it reminded me of an expression I've heard before, which is there's a difference between being lonely and alone.
Yes.
And it's when you're alone, you
Yeah.
really have those moments of self-discovery, and you kind of figure out what you're about. And like you said, yeah, I think some people probably go through that exercise and you're like, oh shit, I'm not
Yeah.
necessarily who I thought I was.
A little raw. It's easy to act tough around people, but
Yeah.
it's when you got nobody to impress, even no crowd. I mean, like high school basketball, small gym, rocking. It's really easy to put out a full effort, and you're getting rewarded with all this adulation. There's nobody out there. I mean,
Yeah.
so if you're not doing it for yourself, I don't know.
Yeah.
It's just way different.
It's weird. Yeah. For people, I'm sure. So, I think hunting to me is an interesting thing because I have a certain perception of hunting, which I don't believe is necessarily unique for a lot of people, which is I think of folks sitting in tree stands and like waiting for an animal to come by and then they get their shot. And I don't think of it as a very athletic pursuit. So for our listeners who might not be as familiar with what you do, I know you hunt a lot out west, but kind of describe what the experience can be like and what you put your body through from an endurance standpoint.
Yeah, I mean, the stereotypical hunter is somebody who, like you described, is getting in a tree stand, just kind of sitting there and waiting for a deer to walk by, and you shoot it with a gun. And that happens. That's that is hunting in the South and in the East. Where I hunt out west, it's in the mountains. I hunt deer and elk, bear, And it's very much physical. It's, you know, what I kind of made my name doing is called backcountry bow hunting. And that's where you have your camp, everything on your back, and you're going into the mountains sometimes for 10 days and you're surviving. So all your food, your water, any first aid you might need, anything,
You're
knives.
carrying it all. You're carrying
Everything you need to survive in the mountains is on your back. Very difficult. So you might start off with, say, 10 days worth of food. You're going to have 2 pounds a day of food. So there's 20 pounds of food. You have, you know, enough water. You don't take a gallon, but a gallon of water is 8 pounds. So you don't have a full gallon, but you have water, food. So your pack might be 50 pounds. Every step, 50 pounds for miles and miles a day, for days on end, you get beat down. So it's not like people think you sit in a tree stand, you're sitting there drinking coffee, maybe smoking a cigarette, maybe drinking a beer. I don't know what people envision, but that's not what we do out here. It's you're going into the mountains after an animal that lives there 365 days a year, sleeps out there. You know how if you ever slept outside one night without cover, I mean, if you survive, you're going to be pretty tough. Well, they do it every single night, every day of their life. Then they're also got an eye out for wolves in some states now, because wolves are coming back pretty good. Mountain lions that are always trying to kill them. And then human hunters. So it's, and we're lower on there because a lion is a lot better hunter than we are. And a wolf is relentless. So they have all these things that they're being hunted and surviving every day. We're going, for me with the bow, I'm trying to get, say, 40 yards away from them and release a sharp stick, essentially, which is an arrow with a broadhead, and take out a big bull's lungs and kill it. So that's hunting, but that is very, very hard to do. And then if I am successful, the animal's on the ground, it's a 700-800 pound bull elk. Then I have to skin that. I have to quarter it, which means take the hind quarters and the front shoulders off, get the rest of the meat off, get that in game bags, and then pack that out for however far I'm in. All that.
And maybe multiple trips, I would assume, for an animal that big.
Trips. So yeah, you say if you're, say 10 miles back, one guy to pack out a bull elk, it's going to be with your camp to get it out. Also, it's going to be 3 trips. A lot of miles.
So that's 60 miles.
60 miles.
That's 60 miles of hiking with hundreds of pounds that you're moving.
Yep. So that's hunting. That's real world hunting. That's not real world, because all hunting is hunting. It's real for everybody. But that's a hunting I grew up doing, and that's what I know. So that's where the training comes in, because you can't go into a hunt like that unprepared and think you're gonna. My goal is to always be merciful in how I kill. I don't want the animal to suffer. I want it to be a quick kill. So I want to be a merciful hunter, and then I want to honor that animal by getting all of the meat out, and not, if you don't get it out in time, because it's not refrigerated, obviously, in the mountains, or frozen, it's going to waste. So then its life or its death, more accurately, was in vain if I'm not honoring that animal and taking the meat out. So yeah, there's a lot going on there.
So how do you train for that? I'm just picturing, I've done some mountain climbing, certainly done a lot of hiking. I know a lot of our listeners probably have done some hiking as well, but I'm just thinking about, 60 miles of hiking back and forth, up and down a mountain, carrying hundreds of pounds. How do you train for that, Cam?
Yeah, you can't be too tough. I mean, nobody ever goes on a hunt and says, dang, I was just a little too tough. I was a little bit in too good a shape. So there's really no limit. And there's limits on what the human body can do, but we fall well short of that generally. My buddy David Goggins likes to say people quit at 40%. And he's probably right. So nobody's going to push so hard they die. That's just not what people do. A dog will do that. A horse will do that. They'll run themselves to death. Humans don't generally, but there's a big gap between dying and 40% that we need to tap into. So that's what I try to do. I try to get in my training. I've done 100-mile ultras, Western States, Bighorn, 24-hour races where I've went over 100 miles, and then 240 miles in Moab. So I'm always trying, and I train with elite athletes much better than me, just trying to tap into my full potential. So when I go and do what I'm born and bred to do, which is hunt the mountains, I'm at my peak or close to it.
Yeah, that's incredible. So walk through a day in the life of Cam Hanes. Like, I've seen some stuff and doing some homework for the conversation here today, Cam, and
Yeah.
I'm just kind of blown away by your daily schedule. And so I think it's hard for people who haven't had the Western hunt experience to understand, you know, kind of the physical demands you put on your body, but also, you know, for those people who haven't been around a 100-mile race, like what is that really like? But I think a lot of what comes through for me is when I hear about your day and how you start out, and kind of walk us through that so people can understand the commitment.
Yeah, my thing is I don't have any special talent. I don't have any special ability. I'm not like Tom, the best quarterback to ever live. I'm just a guy. So the only way I can achieve my goals is to outwork the norm. So I have, and because part of that mindset about not thinking I'm special in any ways, I still have a 9-to-5 job. And it's just like, I got this job 25 years ago, and it was the best job I've ever had in my life at that time. And I remember, you know, saying or praying to get this job because it could change my life. And it's a good job. It's working for the water and power company here in town, and I'm very grateful for it. But I also remember how I felt. And so where I might make a lot more money doing other things now, I still can't I can't make myself say I quit. So just to bookend what I'm going to say is I have a 9-to-5 job. I still do. People rely on me there. I'm a loyal person. So I go in every day. To get my training in for what we've talked about, the 100-mile endurance races or the tough hunts, is I get up early in the morning. I get miles in before work. That'll vary. Sometimes I run over to the mountain that I run as often as I can. And if I run,
what time are you waking up? In the morning?
It depends. Depends on if I want to get to the mountain and back. That's 18 miles. I'm going to get up 2:45. If I got to be at work at 7, but I'm usually there a little early. So if I'm going to get, say, just 10 miles in, then I'll get up like 4:30 or something like that. If I'm going to get 6 or 7, then I get up later. So it all depends on how I want to break it up. My goal when I'm getting close to, say, 200-mile shape is I want to do a marathon in total miles a day. So I'll run whatever I get in the morning. Then at lunch, I go from work. And because I go to work from 7, and I'm there till 5, I get a kind of a long lunch. So I'll run, 10 miles at lunch, and then whatever the balance is after work. So that's my goal. Also lift weights and shoot my bow. So that's what I do.
When do you shoot your bow?
In between all that.
All that.
Yeah. So sometimes it's like last night, it was getting dark, and I had to put a flashlight up on the target, and I could stand by in my driveway 40 yards away and shoot just by having the flashlight light up the target, and I could shoot. So it was just getting dark. That was I think probably my last post on Instagram was that. And yeah, so it's just about, it's reps. It's no different than anything else. You can't shortcut just something that takes that type of skill. You can't shortcut it. It's all just about reps.
Yeah. So I want to just ask you about that. And I think a lot of times, especially in our company and everything that we do with athletes, a lot of people look to Tom for inspiration and the amazing commitment he has. And I hear your story, and it's just, there's so many similarities, just your commitment to it. And I just, for the average listener out there, as you're saying, the regular person, for context, I mean, your commitment to this is you're getting up anywhere from 2:45 in the morning to 4:30 or 5, working out at lunch, after work, doing your reps and bow hunting. I mean, that's an extraordinary level of commitment. And so I think for those listening out there that might have a hard time even understanding that, right? How do they get on that journey, right? To be so committed to something, right? Can you give someone, like, I'm a 48-year-old dude, right? So there's a lot of middle-aged people out there, right, that are looking for, challenges in life or new things. Like, how do you get on that journey of commitment? I mean, it's extraordinary.
Yeah. Oh, thank you. I mean, it's just about, I don't know. I don't know how you can get on it. Either you're on it or you aren't. but you can be motivated and inspired. And Tom has done that a lot. You see, you know, I just think and I do take a lot of similarities to Tom because, you know, when you say, well, on paper, what is it? He's 43, right? So
Yeah.
43, yeah, you'll never be a quarterback in the NFL at 43. The odds just aren't there. Just not going to happen. So if he's going, oh yeah, I guess I can't do what I just did. I can't win the Super Bowl because you say it could. So I always say is I'm one of one. You're one of one. Whoever else is listening here is one of one. You can do whatever you want. You can, if you're focused and dedicated, just as Tom is, just as all these people are who overcome all these great challenges, you can do it. But it's a decision you have to make every day. I still have to make a decision every day to get up out of bed at 2:45 to get my miles in. Is it Under Armour's not writing me a check in the morning? They're not, okay, you did your run, here you go, here's your check. Nobody cares whether I do it. But if it's inside you and you've decided that I'm going to do this every day. I don't care what anybody else does. I don't care if anybody else says this isn't good for you, this is bad for you, you should do this. You don't need to do that. You're working too hard. There's no reason to kill yourself like that. You don't need to listen to any of that. But you have to just know in your heart that I'm going to give my very best, and where the chips fall, they fall. I'll just live with it. But not giving your very best, it's like they say, you know, the biggest regret a man can have is unfulfilled potential.
Yeah.
So when you get old and you'd love to be able to run, but you can't anymore because your body won't allow it. What are you going to look back on with regret and say, God, did I give all I had? I'm not going to do that. So that's my decision, is I'm going to give everything I have to every single day.
Yeah. And I think something you said in there is so important. And I think you're spot on because, you know, someone hears your story and they may have a hard time relating and saying, geez, I could never commit to running that much or doing that. But I think part of your answer is maybe that's not your thing. Like, find what's inside you and go get it. Right. And this is what's inside you, but that may be different than what's inside someone else, but you got to go get it.
Yeah.
I think that's part of what I'm hearing you say.
Yeah. I mean, you got to have a passion for whatever it is. You know, this is my passion. This is what I've geared my life towards. This is what motivates me. But that doesn't mean my passion is your passion. Your passion is you defined what your passion is. But whatever that is, just go after it 100, you know, with everything you have. And I think you're going to be satisfied.
Yeah. One of the things I love about what you do and your message in general is I think in this day and age, we've all become so comfortable. And I think one of the really cool things about your story, Cam, and where I personally find inspiration is just the willingness to get outside your comfort zone, right? And to push, and the personal growth you can get from being uncomfortable.
Yes.
Could you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah. I mean, it's, our lives are geared towards comfort, basically. I mean, we've evolved and everything's easier and that's fine. But that's, as you mentioned, that's not where the growth happens. You learn about yourself when the chips are down, when you're tired, exhausted, when you're in the late stages of the race, or even like in a 100-mile race, nobody can really say, even if I quit because I'm hurting, nobody can even say, I can't believe you quit. God, man, you're a pussy. And it's like, well, they can't say it because, well, what if I quit at 80 miles? So they would have an excuse. Like you could say, well, at least you made it 80 miles. That's pretty good. But I would know in my heart that I quit. And so no matter that, how bad it hurts, I got to finish that 20 miles. So those last 20 miles, when you're pushing through everything and you're like, this is terrible. I could quit. Nobody could say anything because they're not doing it. I have all the excuses. I could make up some injury. You come up with all the stuff in your head, but at the end of the day, you know in your heart whether you've given your best, whether you're honoring your gift. And if you're not honoring your gift with 100% effort, that you're gonna have to live with that. But now pushing through it, you feel like you can overcome anything. When I've done those races and I've overcome and I've been through, you know, I've been weak. I've thought about, can I make up an excuse? Can I say I, you know, got dehydrated? I, you know, strained my hamstring. I could make up anything. And I've thought about it, but I can't do it. So what happens is when I get in regular life and there's challenges of regular life, being a dad, being at work, trying to be a leader at work, it's like there's challenges that come up, but they're nothing in comparison to what you've already overcome in training or in these pushing out of your comfort zone. So you you overcome them. You make good decisions. You're more prepared to be like, this isn't what I expected, but you know what? Here's what we're going to do. And people, they get confidence in you. They start believing in you. They're like, man, this guy, he's been through the fire. We can count on him. So then it just kind of, it's a perpetual motion of positive momentum. And you just, all these little things based on training or based on these little small sample sizes lead to this big thing where it's even at work. It's at, somebody, hey, I need some advice on something personal, because they trust you because you've been making these good decisions, and people look at you as a leader. And then all of a sudden now you're a different person. Now you're the guy people go to. But it starts with that questioning yourself. So it's just a weird, I don't know if any of that makes sense. It does to me. So
no, it totally makes a lot of sense. But for the people listening, when you have those moments where you're inside your own head, you've got this self-talk going on, and you're asking yourself that question. And Cam, you found a way to kind of push through. But like, for the listeners, what's that self-talk like? What's something you could suggest to someone who's having a bad? They're trying to do something different. They're trying to push, and they're having that moment of doubt. Like, what are some of the things you say to yourself to get through that?
Well, in a race, I just say, one step at a time. I'm like, now it's different, because now I'm like, people are looking at me, people look up to me. I can't let them down.
You got pressure. Yeah, you got that pressure.
Before it was my kids, it's like, I didn't feel like I was prepared to be a dad. I was pretty young, but I'm like, my kids, I can't push my kids and then quit. So if I'm going to say, guys, this is what we do, you got to leave it all out on the court or on the field or on the trail, whatever it is. I can't quit. So I need to be like, no, I'm going to be the example. If you're going to be the example, be the example. So it changes. I think people's lives, different things motivate you or are important to you at different stages of your life. Now it's just what I do. It's just, I just don't quit. Now it's just who I am. But before, it was at different stages. It was for my kids. It was for trying to prove haters or doubters wrong. And originally, like, people's, whatever, I drank too much. I was a loser. I used to, was a smart ass. People thought that I thought I was better than I was. And then I would drink and be a kind of a young dipshit like guys do. And so then it was like, so I had this reputation. So now I was like, well, now I got to prove that reputation wasn't really me. This is me. Now I'm tough. I can withstand the environment. I'm a bow hunter. I'm a runner. So that it changes. It started off one thing. Now it's another.
Yeah. It's part of that evolution of yourself. You have a really cool expression. I know you use a lot, excuse me, that I'd love to have you just provide some context on, and that's keep hammering.
Yeah. Yeah. That's it. That's just kind of
tell me a little. Yeah. I mean, that's it, right? I mean, at the end of the day, that's the two words to kind of capture that mentality you just laid out, right?
Yeah, it's just keep going. It's a lot of people have different catchphrases that stick out.
Yeah, we say keep going here at TB12.
So. Right. Yeah. Right. So it's essentially keep going, but it's just keep hammering. So it's the same. It's all a mindset. It's you're not going to let distractions. You're not going to let obstacles that would otherwise derail everyone else derail you. You're going to stay focused on the task and get it done no matter what. That's keep going. That's keep hammering. Same thing.
Yeah. Tell me a little bit about recovery. So I'm picturing you're obviously, I think of myself as a type A person. You're certainly type A or A plus at this point, right? And you're grinding, you're doing all this stuff. You're putting a lot of demands on yourself, physically, mentally, and probably emotionally at some level too, right? Just fulfilling all your own expectations and others' expectations of you now. How do you manage your recovery on a daily or weekly or monthly basis?
Yeah, I mean, I'm banged up. The old adage is, are you injured or are you hurt? So I'm hurting all the time. I'm not injured per se. So I push through pain. I'm 53, so it's like I've been banged up a little bit, but nothing that's debilitating, nothing that will actually stop me. Once I get the juices rolling on a run, I can go pretty good. The first couple miles might be a little rough.
Yeah.
But aside from just pushing through pain, all the animals I kill, wild game meat, I eat as clean as possible. I don't drink. I don't, no extra sugars. But I eat a lot of pure wild game meat, a lot of good fuel. I'm always thinking about, I don't look at what I eat as I could tell my wife, I'll eat the same thing every day. I told her I could have this, this, and this every single day for 7 years. I don't care because it's just fuel to me. It's not, I don't eat for pleasure per se. I eat to fuel and to help me achieve my goals. That's how I look at it. So diet, I do get massage. I do get, I get IVs every once in a while. Like I've been doing once a week IVs, just, it's like a sports mix. Because I think I push too hard. I just don't drink enough, like a lot of people, like hydration. And so just try to keep me up to speed on that. But yeah, I mean, I think about it every day.
A little bit of everything. Yeah. But you found your own thing that works for you now. I mean, that's the key thing, is you found what works for you. So I want to just, aside from the athletic part of it, right? I think the other incredible part of your story is this bow hunting piece of the equation. And again, bow hunting is what you do, but to me, it's an incredible skill that requires mastery. And seems like have invested an extraordinary amount of time in the mastery of bow hunting. Can you talked a little bit before about, taking some shots every day, but could you expand a little bit around your thoughts on developing mastery of a skill? Because I think, clearly you've done that in archery and bow hunting. And I think probably the lessons could be applied to a lot of things the listeners would benefit from.
Yeah, it's I started off like anybody. I mean, nobody is born a great bow hunter, just like nobody's born a great quarterback or born a great anything. It starts with learning the basics, and then perfecting those basics as well as you can, and then just a daily dedication and the repetition. So aside now with bow hunting, it's a little bit different because all those reps and the dedication and the mastery, as you described, all lead to the end result, which is killing something. That's a lot different. So when you're talking about, and people kill animals all the time, whether they're paying somebody to do it for them at the supermarket buying meat, or whether I do it myself, but animals are dying for us to survive. That's just the way it goes. So with that goal in mind about, okay, I'm not hiring a quote supermarket hitman to do my killing for me. I'm going to do it, but to do it, I want to be the very best I can be, because I don't want the animal to suffer. As I mentioned earlier, I want to be merciful. And I feel like that the bull, if I'm after a big bull elk in the mountains, has been alive 10 years, which is about the age of a bull. I feel like I want to kill. I feel like he's, at the tail end of his life. There's no happy endings in the mountains. If they die not by a hunter, by a predator, it's gonna be probably a slow, painful death. So I feel like if I can release an arrow perfectly, he's going to die in seconds, and it's probably going to be the best death he could have hoped for, that bull. And I want it to be quick, and I want to put in I feel like that's how I honor that animal's life. I feel like he deserves a death like that. So to do that, I need to not only put in the reps, but also, as athletes do, visualize over and over and over that perfect arrow, that perfect scenario. So by the time I get there, and I've been there many times now because I've bow hunted for 33 years, I've been there so many times in real life, but also thousands and thousands of times mentally, where I've envisioned that exact scenario. So when it happens, it's not anything unexpected. It's exactly what I expected, and it's exactly what I've prepared for. So it's not like the heat of the moment. A lot of times guys get in, especially a bull elk, if I'm hunting them, it's usually during their breeding season. It's called the rut, and they're bugling. So if you ever heard an elk bugle, it's like this high pitched scream, squeal. Mm-hmm. It's just amazing. But when that bull's coming in, so you hear that sound getting closer and closer and closer to where you are, and you're trying to, you're a hunter, so you're not trying to be visible or stand out. You're wanting to be in the shadows. That's kind of how even lions do it, or anything does it. They know sunlight's the enemy. So you kind of stay in the shadows, and that bull gets closer and closer. With it, anticipation comes. And now this moment you've been waiting for, sometimes for years. Some guys never get that opportunity, or when they do get it, it comes in and it's so overwhelming emotionally, and they've put so much into what this is going to be like, they blow it, they choke because it's hard. If you look at the numbers, when I talk about hard and success rate, the success rate on a bow hunter killing an elk is 10%. So 1 out of 10 guys, or you'll kill 1 every 10 years. That's not 90. That means most people are failing. 90% of the guys are not getting it done. And it's because it's so hard, and it's that moment where everything is happening. And if you're not prepared, you will fail. So my whole thing is about preparing for that moment.
Yeah, the preparation. I think you see that with any world-class athlete in any sport that, you know, I've spoken with or we've worked with. It's that preparation is everything. It gets you ready for that moment. I will, you know, for our listeners who aren't as familiar, I did see one of your videos on YouTube. I think it was called Cam's Bull of a Lifetime.
Yes.
And so if someone wants to really see what this is all about and see how incredible what you do is, that's a video that, you know, people really need to see. It's pretty amazing. And I think, you know, one of the things that's incredible to me when I watch it, one of the sports I love is biathlon, because these athletes are charging on their cross-country skis, and then they got to stop
Right.
and hit a target way out. And I'm watching you in this video, and I'm just picturing like your adrenaline. I mean, you kept it pretty cool, but for me, my adrenaline would have been pumping. But
Yes.
you got to take that long shot, feel super steady. How do you calm your mind? Is it just you've had so many reps, you're able to do it? But I mean, the ability to just calm yourself in that instant is incredible.
Yeah. I've done it a lot. And I also know that I have to do that to be successful. I mean, you have to, it's hard because shooting a bow is difficult just in the backyard here. But
Yeah.
now you have a pack on, you're hustling up a hill, you're trying to head off. That bull was coming down the ridge, and he wasn't coming to me. I hadn't called or anything. He was just bugling down the ridge. So I'm trying to head him off. And that's a window, it's an opportunity that the window's not going to stay open forever. So you got to hustle. And by the time you get up there, then I think I stopped the bull. I don't think the audio made it in there, but I made a noise with my mouth and stopped the bull. And he's at 55 yards. And yeah, everything building to that crescendo of everything, all that opportunity, all the bull coming down, me meeting it. It's not easy. So I don't really have a secret to how to overcome that, because the fact of the matter is not everybody's gonna be good at that. That's just that's one of the blessings that I have, I guess. Maybe that's the only one, but is being able to get it done in a moment like that. So I try to how I've prepared for that is like, I remember Cabela's would want me to come and do their grand openings. And I said, well, they said, could you cut the ribbon? And so one of my first ideas was, I don't want to cut the ribbon with scissors. Everybody does that. I want to shoot it with my bow. And so I'd have, you know, thousands of people, TV cameras, CEOs, and I'd want to shoot that ribbon instead of cutting it with scissors. So I was just all selfish, because I'm just want to prepare for that moment that you saw in the Bull of the Lifetime video, with that pressure, and still get it done. So the more you can do that, just like, you know, Tom with what he does, it's just what he does. He comes through in the big moments. That's the same type of mindset I want to have.
Yeah, it's pretty incredible. And I think for, I didn't tell you this when we spoke previously, but back last year when everything was going on COVID, I was like looking for some things to do. And about 5 years ago, some buddies of mine convinced me to buy a compound bow. I didn't shoot it 3 times. So finally, it's like you're saying, in the backyard. I get it out in the backyard, and I'm out there, and I got this target, and I can see a couple of my kids are looking out the window, and I don't know what I'm doing at that point, Cam. So I'm out there, and I'm probably 20 yards from the target. First arrow shoots right through the fence into my neighbor's yard.
Yeah.
Another one right off the ground, right? So I only share that story because I think people don't appreciate how hard it is until they've tried it for the first time. So to think of you combining the athleticism and then the mental presence and mindset and control of yourself to do that in a mountain setting in the outdoors with how heavy is the animal? 1,000 pounds, like this giant animal.
Yeah,
They're big.
Yeah.
I got to tell you, I saw in that video the picture of you with the head and the rack coming out the back.
Yeah.
What was that thing across? Must have been 8 feet across or something. Was it?
It's a wide bull.
Incredible.
It's quite not that far, but that was a good bull. And also what you got to keep in mind too is that is hard to kill, but also those animals don't want to die.
Yeah.
You know, it's not like they're committing suicide.
Yeah.
They are very good at staying alive, and you're trying to kill them with, like I said, that sharp with an arrow. And it's, you know, they're so tough. They're so tough. So when it all happens, it's just an amazing, it's kind of it's bittersweet because I love and respect the animal so much. I think about them every day, and then you killed it. So it's like a weird dynamic
Yeah.
for people who don't have to understand, to respect an animal, but then also kill it. But that's just kind of the juxtapose of being a hunter.
Yeah, but I think one of the things you mentioned earlier, which I think is really important, and I wanted to talk about for a minute, is in this day and age, people beginning to get a better connection to where their food comes from, right? And one of the cool things about what you do, and even what you're talking about here today, is like really understanding where the meat comes from that you eat. I mean, you get it, so you know exactly where it came from. What'd you call a guy in the supermarket? I thought that was
the supermarket hitman.
Yeah, supermarket hitman, right? So again, we're all out there getting the meat, but you know where it's coming from, and that connection. You know, you hear the words like farm to table so often, but you know, not a lot different what you're doing, and that's it's pretty incredible to have that connection with what you eat. Talk to me a little bit about your feelings and thoughts on the notion of preservation versus conservation, right? So I think that's a pretty important concept for people who love the outdoors. I would love to kind of get your take on that.
Yeah, it's you know, like I said, being a human, no matter what you do, animals are going to die for your existence. That's all there's to it. Even if you're a vegan and you're just eating salads, and maybe wheat bread, those fields, if you've ever been around, like say a wheat field after it's been harvested, there's buzzards flying all around, because when that combine goes through to harvest that wheat, all sorts of animals die during that process, from different rodents, you know, rabbits, birds, young deer they hide out there, and fawns are out there. So those buzzards know that, oh, you know, they harvested this field, there's gonna be dead animals everywhere. So but I only bring that up to highlight that for us to exist, animals die. That's life. Life eats life. Now, as far as hunting and conservation goes, where a big part of why we have so many animals. So if you compared the numbers of deer, elk, and bear now compared to 100 years ago, there's more now than there was 100 years ago. And that's because the money of hunters that have went into conservation. Hunters they make a difference. All the hunting licenses we buy, the tags we buy for each species, all that money goes into conservation, which conservation is kind of a catch-all, but it's increased habitat for animals. It's creating, say, like in Wyoming, in Montana, where weather hits pretty hard on the mountains, those deer have to have a way to get out of the mountains so they don't get stuck because of the snow. So there's migration corridors. So hunters help protect those migration corridors, so those animals, once the weather hits up high, can get down to the lowlands where they winters, what it's called, where there's feed and there's not a lot of snow. All that is provided and studied, and the biologists are funded by hunters, the fish and game departments. That's all hunting money. So hunting money contributes to conservation. Conservation is a catch-all of why we're so successful with our North American big game model, which has led to more deer, elk, and bear than 100 years ago.
Yeah, I think that's a big misperception for people, is that hunting is about killing. And I think in this day and age, that's actually the furthest thing from the truth, as you said, relative to the numbers and what it does for the population. I mean, obviously, animals die, people eat, obviously, as a result. But at the end result of the effort, if done well with conservation, is a larger biomass of the animals and whatnot. Yeah.
Yep, that's right. And it's, you know, hunters, you know, our goal is killing as part of the journey. But to me, it's, you know, hunting has led me all over the world to different countries. I love hunting Tanzania. I've been there, stayed there 3 weeks one time, and the people, the country, that you don't learn any of these different environments like you do as being a hunter when you're out there trying to interpret the land and the animals, and connect with the people, see different cultures. And so hunting, yeah, was I there to kill? If you just, that's what you want to focus on, yes. But what I gained from that is a whole new perspective on a whole different lifestyle and different different people, different cultures. And that's tough to explain, but as a hunter, that's just part of what we do. And so I hate when it just gets wrapped up like, oh, you kill animals. Like, well, yeah, I mean, that's part of it. That's not all of it though.
Yeah. But I think a lot of it also goes back to that just connection to the food, right? So you know where your food comes from. I was reading something not long ago, probably a couple years ago. I haven't heard like Mark Zuckerberg from Facebook was getting into hunting, and he was like hunting wild boar, right?
Yes.
So I mean, like I think it's when you get into that mentality, it's a little different, like getting connected to the food. I think he even said something like, "I'm only going to eat what I kill from now on," or something like that. Did you hear that? I don't know. Is that true?
No, I don't know if it's true, but I did hear that. You know, there's a lot of fake news out there these days.
That's right, yeah. Well, you've heard
there's something to be said for being a hunter and a provider. It's when you have killed an animal, you know all it takes. You've done everything. You've taken care of it. Your hands are responsible for putting the meat on your family's table. There's some honor, and there's something special about being a provider like that. And that's probably the greatest joy of being a hunter, is providing for your family.
Yeah, and I think one of the amazing things about your story is that connection to nature and life, other lives, the animals, but also how in tune you are with your body and your life and your, ability to stay, vibrant and healthy and all the things that you're doing. I think that's pretty amazing. Talk a little bit about, as now you said, you volunteered it, so I'm not bringing it out. You said you're 53, right?
Yeah.
So we're big into longevity here at TB12 and helping people, live their best life longer, if you will. You're already doing that to some extent. What advice would you give to people that are coming up in the years a little bit and the bodies are changing, but they still want to kind of stay healthy, or maybe they think there's limitations? What specifically would you say to the people that are crossing that 50-year-old mark?
Yeah, I'm
asking for a friend, man, because I'm 48. So
yeah, I know. I used to say, like, just kind of joke around, and I used to take 10 years off my age and say, well, like, are you 50 or you look 40? Yeah, I'm 43 actually. But then 43, taking 10 years off, 43 is still old. So I'm like, well, maybe I need to start taking 20 years off. And so maybe I'll just say I'm 33. Let's just go with 33. The key is for me, and I've said this before, is your body gives what you ask of it. If you don't ask much, it's not going to give you much. But if you ask a lot, it will give you a lot. So the thing is, if you haven't been doing anything though, don't go crazy, because then I get a lot of questions or how to overcome shin splints and things like that. So your body will give you a lot if you work into it. We're capable of amazing things. So I would say, yes, ask a lot of your body, but not the first day. But get out there. I mean, even like my joints, my bones, everything, I run the mountains. I think my body is kind of adapted to what I've been asking of it to do. So a lot of people get a lot of advice from the guy down the street or from the internet. And like I said, we're one of one. What's might be good for some, maybe isn't good for all, maybe isn't just good for you. So it's like, learn your body. That's the key. I know my body. I know what type of food my body can operate best on. Nobody's ever performed better by drinking alcohol. So I'd say limit alcohol, sugars, things like that. Look at your diet like you guys do, and give your body a chance to succeed. You can't expect it to operate here and overcome all these different poisons you're putting in there, and it's still expected here. But now if all of a sudden you feel it good and it's matching what your expectations are, your sky's the limit then. I mean, age is just a number. 50 doesn't mean anything if you're living right. I think your body will adapt.
Yeah, I think that's really great advice, and something we talk a lot about here at TB12. And I think that notion of you get what you put into it, I think really is really important. I think it's hard for people these days, I think, to really prioritize the taking care of themselves and whatnot, because they're busy with kids, they're busy with work, and they don't make it a priority. But one of the cool things that you've done, and you've said before, you've made this a priority in your life. Like, you've made this your life, taking care of yourself like this. And it comes through, and you're able to do some amazing things as a result. Tell me about a difficult difficult day for Cam Hanes? Do you have bad days? Like, and what do you do when you have a bad day?
I like to say every day's a gift, just because it can change like that. And
yeah,
I try not to, everybody has things that didn't go as they expected. Sometimes there's bad days, but at the end of the day, it's like we are lucky to be here chasing our dreams, given opportunity. And whether it's something bad happened, that is an opportunity. It's how you look at it. It's an opportunity to overcome whatever happened to you, and come out the other side. So it's, I try to focus on each one day at a time. I'm not big on, I don't get overwhelmed by the moment or worry about things down the road. And I've said this before to people, but like if I was going to fly somewhere next week, and this is just me, I don't even book the ticket till next week because there's no guarantee I'm going to be around next week. But I'm all about living for today, and I don't make big plans down the road. I'm just like, no, this is my focus is how can I be best today? Whatever happens today, I'm going to overcome it. Tomorrow will be a new day. I'll deal with tomorrow. So, that works. I think big picture, sometimes there's going to be things you need to be a little more, down the road focused, but in general, just one day at a time. That's the key. That's my key.
Yeah. And I think a lot of times in life, people can look at, the big challenges and the big problems and get overwhelmed. But at the end of the day, like you said, just break it down, little steps, one step in front of the other, just, get going and do things one step at a time. Yeah. Let me ask you just one or two last things. What's next for you? What's kind of the next big thing for you? You've done a lot of big stuff. You got anything big coming up the next few years? I know you said you're not really planning much past next week, but I bet you must have a couple aspirational goals, trips, or adventures.
Well, doing this podcast with you, that was my big thing for today. So I can.
Well, we appreciate that.
I'm starting that check right now. I'm going to check it off.
Check that off.
Yeah, because we almost did it. I don't know if I said anything super stupid or controversial. So I think I've been doing okay.
You're on point.
Yeah, good. So aside from this, I don't know. I have some big hunts coming up. I'm going up for brown bear in Alaska. I like going up to Alberta and hunting black bear in the spring. The border's been closed, but mostly I got a 100-miler I'm doing next. Let's see, next month. Yeah, in late March, in Utah. So I'm kind of gearing up for that, trying to get my miles in for that. And then I like running. I like doing big runs. I got a few friends that are really good endurance athletes, and I like connecting with them and doing crazy stuff. So want to make that happen too.
Training with them and doing it all. Yeah, that's great. Hey, just if we had to just capture one last moment and we had to share with people what you feel to be the single most defining part of your character and approach to life, what would that be?
God, I don't know. Let's see. When I think of moments that stand out for me, one big one is I was sheep hunting with my buddy Roy, and people who followed me would know the story, but we were sheep hunting, and it was in country. He ended up he fell in 2015 and died. But in 2008, I had a sheep tag up there, and we were up there, and I hit this ram. I went down on the snowy cliff, and it was right on the edge of the cliff. And I said, I got to go get that thing. And he's like, well, it's really rugged country. I mean, as you know, he fell, and that's a good indication of how dangerous it is up there. But he said, well, if you go down there, I don't know if you'll be able to get back out. And I said, well, I guess we'll find out. And he goes, and if you that ram might go over the cliff. And I said, well, I guess we'll find that out too. So I went down there, got the ram. He made it down and we got it out. But I remember that by the time we got the ram out, that was my birthday. It was October 2nd. And I'll just remember sitting on top of that mountain with my buddy Roy, who got me started with bow hunting, in that and it was a hunt. We were always about overcoming odds, and we'd say, well, if any man has ever done it, we can do it. So we had done a tough hunt, tough country, overcome. We both came from the same small town, so that was like a pinnacle moment for me in my life, is me with Roy on top of that mountain on my birthday with a ram, and in special rugged country like we loved, we overcame. That moment stands out for me.
Yeah, that's a real special moment. Hey, well, as we wrap up, I'm going to pay you a little tribute and also footnote something just for the karmic significance of it. I got 4 kids, Cam, and one of my teenagers, she was complaining about, this hurting, that hurting, and this and that. And I said to her, I said, hey, make pain your friend and you'll never be alone. And so I want to set the record straight in the universe that I pilfered that one from you, because I heard you say that once online. So I just wanted to let you know I heard that when you said it, and I passed it along. That's
great. Well, that's our, being here for our kids and kind of modeling that type of behavior about, hey, there's gonna be things that hurt. You're gonna have to overcome them. That's what dads do, right?
Yeah, I want to give you some props for that, because I definitely passed that along. Well, look, man, thanks for being on today. It's a true pleasure to have you on. I know our listeners are going to love to hear your story, and I wish you the best in the race next month. That'd be good stuff.
Well, thanks, John. It was an honor to be. I'm a big fan of everything you guys are doing. Big fan of Tom. Big fan of TB12. So this is it's an honor to be involved. Thank you for the invite.
Yeah, and I'm going to make a promise to you. I'm going to find a way to get you in front of a TB12 body coach at some point. We're going to make sure we take care of some of that hurt.
Let's do it. We're going
to figure that out somehow.
All right.
All right. Thanks, Cam. Thanks for being on.
Take care. Keep hammering.